So today I'm going to be talking about my favorite sitcoms. So usually sitcoms I'm not the biggest fan of when it comes to TV. A lot of them are very lazy, like cliched, rely on the same humor and formula over and over again. Uh, but I'd be lying if I said there weren't some bangers out there. Like some of these sitcoms, comedy gold, just very well written, and belong right next to good old-fashioned quality dramas. So let's kick this list off with number 10. We got The Thick of It, which is a British sitcom which was on BBC about maybe 15 years ago. Um, for those of you who haven't heard of it, it's the inspiration for the American sitcom Veep, which I have not seen. It stars Peter Capaldi, who those of you might know from Doctor Who. He's this guy right here. And it's also written by the guy who made Succession, Jesse Armstrong. It's a very kind of dry, dark comedy, because none of the characters are particularly likable. They're not really good people. You can't really empathize with them that much because they're all self-motivated and they really have no morals, but they're very dumb, which makes it fun to watch. It's about this political group, they work for a minister, and their job is to protect his reputation, against the press. But they're all very bad at it. It's a show about a bunch of incompetent assholes. And the best asshole of all is Malcolm Tuckle, played by Peter Capaldi, who's just foul mouthed and just awful. His insults are so intricate, it's like reading, like, just literature. It's incredible. Number 9, we have That 70s Show. So I'm making a confession, as with the last one. So for the thick of it, I've only seen the first two seasons. I haven't finished the thick of it, and same with That 70s Show. I'm on season 2 of That 70s Show right now. I'm watching it with my sister, so we kind of just watch it a little bit at a time. But so far, I'm really liking it. The characters are extremely funny. It's a very goofy atmosphere. And I feel like you don't need to be from the 70s to get the 70s humor. And while the characters are very cartoonish, there's a little bit of depth to them, which makes it good fun to watch. Not just a bunch of cartoon characters. They seem like real people to a degree. And I don't know, it's one of those sitcoms which is kind of just a feel good show. Sometimes I like watching shows where people, for the most part, get along with each other and they're just hanging out down the street. Moving on to number 8, which is Curb Your Enthusiasm. So, like those other shows, I did not finish it. I kind of stopped watching it. I don't know why I stopped watching it. I just had other stuff to watch and I never got back to it. So I made it like halfway through season 5. But still, it's an hilarious show. I think it's better than Seinfeld, which is a very unpopular opinion. But it's better than Seinfeld for two main reasons. One, it's on HBO, so it doesn't have NBC holding them back, saying like what jokes they can and cannot do. It feels a lot more bold, you know, like they're not restricting themselves. And B, there's no laugh track. I hate laugh tracks, so. But Larry David is, well, the character Larry David is so interesting because like half the time you agree with what he's saying, but he's so stubborn, and the way he says things and the way he never lets things go, he just makes a fool of himself. It's really interesting. Like we've all been in that situation. We're all a little bit like Larry David. Like even though you're right, you should stop talking, but you keep talking anyway. It's that's kind of just his shtick. In the whole show, he embarrasses himself and the people around him, and it's great. You know. You could empathize with Larry while at the same time saying, "Dude, just let it go. Just let it go." Number 7, Friends. So I don't know why, for some reason, it's cool to hate Friends now. Like around maybe 2018 or 2019, everybody's like, Friends is so overrated. It's not, it's not a complex, sophisticated show. I once had some asshole in a high school band say that Friends is a boring show for boring people after I said that I liked Friends. Um, Fuck that guy anyway. But I think Friends is great. Not every show has to be intricately written. It's not everything has to be like Better Call Saul or Game of Thrones. It's just fun to watch, you know, a funny show with funny people in it, and that's what it is. You care about the characters. They're pretty three-dimensional. It's consistently funny. I can't think of that many shows that had 10 seasons where all of them are good. Like, that's never happened. And they are all good. There's only a few episodes I don't like. The characters are funny. My favorite is Phoebe. My second favorite is Ross. And I would hate Ross if it wasn't for David Schimmel's performance as him, because David Schimmel is such a funny actor. He makes an unlikable character like Ross likable. Phoebe is one of the greatest sitcom characters ever created. So yeah, Friends is just something I watch sometimes when I want to turn my brain off, and there's nothing wrong with that. I hate this thing where TV has to be so like complex and just detailed and stuff. It's just fun to sit back and laugh, and that's what Friends is for. Okay, number six, we have The Office. So I felt like putting the UK Office and the US Office on the list would be cheating because that's like two different shows, taking up two spots on the top 10 list. So I'm just gonna say both of them. I like them both for different reasons. I feel like the US Office has higher highs, but they also have lower lows. You know what I mean? Um, because the UK office only had 14 episodes, while the US office had like 201. So obviously, after Michael left in season 7, the show took a turn for the worse, and it only really recovered when they knew it was going to end soon. So, like, the last 3 episodes were really good, but for the most part, seasons 8 and 9 are very mediocre. Um, while the UK office stayed pretty consistent its entire run. Um, but I think, the different styles of comedy they use are a great example of the different styles of comedy between American shows and British shows. With the British show, nobody likes David Brent. Nobody likes him. He embarrasses himself constantly, and nobody like entertains it or anything. But on the American show, everybody on the show seems to kind of get along. They like Michael towards the end. It's a very growth. He starts off like David Brent, but then he kind of grows, and they learn to respect him and love him more. That doesn't happen with David Brent. He kind of stays the same, though he does get a little bit more confident towards the end of the series, which I do enjoy. But overall, both shows are very hilarious for different reasons. The American Office is much more farcical and over the top, while the British Office is a lot more grounded and subtle with its humor. But the British Office, you can't really like look away because there's like a jokes like constantly and it's more subtle, so you'd miss it. You'd like blink and miss it. Well, the American Office kind of points out that there's a joke. Like the camera would like zoom in extra far, like there's a joke. So they both have the highs and lows. But yeah, just gonna say The Office for sixth place. Okay, number five, we're going with Arrested Development, seasons 1 through 3. Um, it's a great show. Like, kind of like the thick of it. Nobody on the show is really a good person or likable in a traditional sense, but they're also very incompetent, which is so fun to watch. And this is also a great example of American humor because it's very over the top, but also very clever at the same time. It's known for its running gags, where a joke could be set up in episode 3 and it doesn't get you don't get the punchline till episode 10. It's really cool like that. Every character on the show is hilarious in different ways, from Michael to Lindsay to Tobias to Buster to Job. They're all just bad people. It's fun to watch. The way it's edited is very unique for a sitcom too. It's narrated by Ron Howard as if it's like a documentary or like a recreation of a documentary. It's not really made clear. So like the jokes are set up in a way that's pretty unique compared to other sitcoms. Now the problems start after the show got canceled the first time. So the show was on, for 3 seasons in Fox in the early 2000s, and it got canceled. But then 8 years later, Netflix brought it back for 2 more seasons, and those sucked ass. They were awful. It's like they were trying too hard to recreate the spirit of the original show, but they were failing. Like they're like, ooh, running gag, but they really failed like what made the show clever. They were missing that key ingredient. I'm not saying all of the last two seasons were bad. It just, as a whole, it did not live up to the standards of the first three seasons, which is why it's not number one. Like, it probably would be at least number two if it just ended after season three instead of bringing it back 8 years later. But alas, we don't live in that world, so let's move on. Okay, number four, we have Ted Lasso, which is a recent show I've just watched. It's only had two seasons, and I've binge watched them with my dad over the course of like 3 weeks. That's how good it is. Um, it's it's not traditionally a comedy because there's a lot of dramatic elements into it. It's basically like 50-50 when it comes to the comedy drama scale. And what I really love about the show is that each character, you think you know like who they are, you think they're like a cliche, the kind of one note. But then as the show goes on, you get to see their personalities more developed and they become more three dimensional. At first, you think Ted is this kind of stereotypical, like Ned Flanders, positive all the time character, but then you realize he's struggling with anxiety and stuff like that, and you think Rebecca's this hard ass, but then, you find out why she's so upset and how she kind of deals with her marital issues and stuff. To see how Ted's positivity helps the rest of the characters. Like he helps them become better people. It's very positive show when it comes to that, and it's also very well written. I don't really care for soccer that much, but it's on that list of shows about sports I don't care about that actually make me like it. Like it's just so well written. I like it. I feel like a lot of times when sitcoms try to be serious, they have a really special episode. It comes off as very forced or like preachy in a way. But this show, they're able to like juggle comedy and drama so flawlessly. It's impressive. I think it's because the show never goes too far overboard in the farcical. So when they do drama, it's not like a huge leap, Because the show has kind of this snarky sense of humor. It doesn't go overboard, so when they do drama, it feels a lot more natural. Everybody from like, Ted to the side characters, and even like some of the characters only appear once or twice, are very, just they feel like real people. They feel like people and you could relate to almost everybody in like at least a little bit in a way. I'm very excited about season three. I'm going to be talking about it on this channel when it comes. But anyway, on to the next one. Number three is Community. So this would also be higher if it was more consistent. So seasons one through three of Community, top tier television. It's incredible. Season four, when they fired Dan Harmon, it became shit. It was awful. There was like two episodes I liked, but overall just awful. But then they brought back Dan Harmon for season five, and it was great again. But then half the cast left, and season six came to kind of bad. Like it wasn't as bad as season four, but it was still like you could tell it's time for the show to end. Like without Pierce and Troy and Shirley, that's like half the cast. It just wasn't the same. Like as much as I liked Keith David and Frankie, it just wasn't the same. But Community is such a great show because they're able to like parody all these sorts of movie genres while still like making sense within the plot of the show itself. All the characters seem very three-dimensional, like I said, and it just has a very positive vibe about it, which I think is lacking from Dan Harmon's other show Rick and Morty, which I feel like is a little bit too cynical sometimes. Um, this is one of the reasons I stopped watching it. I just feel like Community, like, they have the struggles, but at the end of the day, they do care about each other, and it just makes me feel a little happy inside. Melts my cold, dark soul. Number two, I was like debating whether to put on this list or not, because I don't even know if it counts as a sitcom. This is Freaks and Geeks, so I really don't know if this counts as a sitcom or not, because it's like an hour long, and it's very dramatic, and there's really no like laugh track, or it's not edited like a sitcom. But it's hilarious. I think more than any other show I've watched, this portrays what it's like to be a high schooler the most realistically. Um, it's set in the 1980s in Michigan, but I feel like the show has this timeless feel about it. That's the thing that Ted Lasso does, where at the beginning you think they're all just a bunch of cliches, one-note characters, but then as it goes on, every single one of them gets developed to the point where they feel like real people. They feel like people with flaws and like more just complex personalities. It's great, and shame on you, NBC, for canceling it after one season. Like that show's awesome. Whatever, we'll make season 25 of Law and Order instead. Okay. Yeah, that's my top 10. Oh, wait, I forgot number one. Parks and Recreation. How could you compete with Parks and Recreation? So, season one of the show is very mediocre. Honestly, I suggest skipping season one. You wouldn't miss much. It's only 6 episodes. It's just season one felt like they were trying too hard to be like The Office. Well, season two is when they started to form their own identity. And in season three is when it gets really good when they add Chris and Ben. But anyway, this show is about a local Parks and Rec department in Pawnee, Indiana, a fake town. And like Ted Lasso and Community, it gives me that warm, fuzzy feeling inside because it's about good people trying to do good things. Like Momo, he's a good cat, and he makes me happy, which is a good thing. Right, kitty? Um, but Parks and Rec, like every single character on the show is just hysterical. Like they make me laugh so much in different ways, and you could see a little bit of yourself in each of them. The only character I'm not included is Monk, but they kind of get rid of him early on anyway, so who cares about Monk? The way the characters interact with each other was so funny. You could feel like they knew each other for years, the type of chemistry they have, but they obviously didn't. And why I think the show is better than The Office, it is much more consistent, and I feel like The Office, you get the vibe that nobody there really wants to be with each other. They just have to because they work together. Parks and Rec is different because they actually like want to be in each other's lives, I guess. It's much more consistent. They were smart enough to end while they were ahead. That's season 7, probably the best season. While The Office just kept limping on until the finish line. Parks and Rec knew how to end it. It was great. Fantastic show. So yeah, that is my top 10 list. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite sitcoms are. Did I miss any of your favorites? Please let me know. And until next time, peace.